I tell people like I've been selling tapes out the trunk for a minute. Like I know how to
You a hustler,
them essentially. And so it's funny because even so we got a lot of videos on the YouTube page just because like I like to talk about this stuff, and since my baby girl was born, I remember people telling me, "Oh, you got to get on video, got to get on video." It's uncomfortable, it's weird, and so you know how it becomes not weird. Just do it. And I remember I recorded my first videos with the baby crib behind me in my little girl's nursery, and through the awkwardness and like now like I was doing another real estate thing, and they had like a recording studio inside of a title office. Like it was the dopest setup ever. And so like yeah, tell us how you feel about the conference. So I did like a 3-minute one take, and so everybody, the production people, they're just kind of staring at me like, how'd you keep it? Like, that's what I do all the time.
That's what I
like,
do.
If I cut, I take my own ghetto editing process and like I snip it together, and this is what you got. But I mean, it's even some microcosm for business, and we'll get into it. Like when I say like a lot of the components that made me successful as an attorney, I really learned from the real estate game, because it's just life, it's sales, it's perseverance, and just all the essential skills that people need.
It's funny that you talk about your daughter, because you know obviously me and Mo we're girl dads too.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious, you know, just which one's older? The son.
My son is older.
Son is older.
Yeah.
So your baby girl, like she's got like 2 in the hole with you off rip, because she's the baby and she's your daughter. So like, what is that like with, you know, having a daughter and a son?
It's interesting because, and my wife, we talk about like just trying to help her kind of cultivate like her personality, because like she does a lot of what Big Brother does. Big Brother's 6, she's gonna be 4 in a couple months. But like I'm especially now, like a lot of her personality is really starting to peek through. She's got like she's got a little sass to her. She's really smart. Like she subtly can try to manipulate the energy. Like she knows how daddy's moving. She knows how
age, bro.
And like it's crazy. Like when you think about like kids are really smart. They just don't have like all the words and the capacity, but they know what's happening. And they can figure it out. So it's been cool to kind of like see her develop and kind of see her confidence build. And like I'll just kind of like do things to like kind of like test her, and just like, hey, like you don't have to be afraid of the situation. Like you are a leader. Like people are attracted to you. And like even her school, like people are attracted to her. What does it look like to manage it, be a person of good character, who's God made you to be in the situation? Like, do you feel comfortable being who you're supposed to be? Can you stand up to your big brother?
Yeah.
Talk about having her big girl bark.
Ooh.
And so it's been interesting to kind of see her develop in that. But yeah, she'll try to play. I tell people talk about, oh, you know, my little girl's got me wrapped around her feet. I don't feel like I'm like that. At least not right now. Like she's trying to like, no, like you can't. Nope. No.
So I've got 2 girls. My oldest is 14. My youngest is 4.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, a lot about what you're talking about, I'm going through with my 4-year-old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, and then I've got a 3-year-old niece who has a 6-year-old brother. And so I want to talk about them real quick. So my nephew, he is a boy's boy. Like he is like little Mowgli off of Tarzan. What is that? Jungle Book.
Yeah.
You know, like he is bouncing off the trees and
Made out
like
of vibranium.
Like it's so cool because he's just being a boy's boy, right? I love that. But because she sees that, guess what she does? She does the exact same thing. And so a lot of the idiosyncrasies, like she's picking up and like you could see. But one of the things that I noticed, and it's not just with her, but like with young girls that age, they learn how to manipulate and get what they want. It's so interesting. So anyways, back to my 4-year-old, and you were kind of talking about putting your big girl voice on or whatever.
Her big girl bark. Speaking
big girl bark. Yeah. So this is a life lesson that I think that every adult knows,
Indeed.
right? But so I've got a 10-month-old Doberman, right? She's not afraid of the dog or anything like that. She acts like it, but she's really not. Mm-hmm. So we go walking, and there's rabbits that live behind my house.
Yeah.
And there's like a 300-yard run behind my house. So I'll take him back there, and, you know, if it's nighttime or whatever, you can see him, and they're darting across or whatever. And I don't know why she said it. I don't know if she was embellishing. I don't know if she was being transparent or honest, or vulnerable. But she's like, Daddy, I'm scared of the rabbits. And I was like, well, why would you be scared of the rabbits? She's like, I don't know. And I said, well, let's think about this. And I'm trying to talk to her from a pragmatic perspective. Indeed. And be like, what is there to be afraid of? Well, I don't know. Well, if you don't know, your fears of the unknown.
Indeed.
Right? And I'm sitting here like kind of preaching to myself and this is the whole reason why we kind of started the podcast, is like a lot of times we have these fears that exist that really shouldn't even be a fear. They're 100%, they're ungrounded, and you're afraid of stuff, but you have no reason to be, because even if no one knows what the outcome is, and we too often do we live in the future or live in the past. Indeed. And forget to live in the present.
Absolutely.
But, speaking of that, I am tremendously grateful. Welcome back to the Vision Lab podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Cuffey. My co-host, Mr. Ryan Mosley, is out today. He's handling some business. You guys know Mo is always chomping at the bit and moving and grooving. So we miss you, Mo. We'll get back in a couple of weeks and have you back on the show. But
yes, sir.
I am super grateful. We met about a year ago.
Yeah.
Last year, the Vision Lab did the first annual financial symposium that we had at Blowing Smoke Cigar Lounge. Shout out to Edwina and the good folks on the south side of town. What an amazing establishment. Make sure you guys go check them out and support them. But absolutely. Just a fantastic event. We got a chance to partner with the brothers from Black Wealth Renaissance.
Indeed.
Dudes are just crushing it. Big ups to BWR and what you guys are doing, man. Mad salute to you guys.
Absolutely.
But in that, we had this financial symposium where we got a chance to meet a lot of like-minded people and people that are, just crushing it within their own respective industries.
Absolutely.
And then out of the fold comes Soluto Uba.
Yep.
Right. And so, Soluto, welcome to the Vision Lab podcast.
Thank you.
I'm so humbled and grateful to make this happen, man. Honestly, bro. Thank you. Last year, when we wrapped up, we exchanged information or whatever. I was trying to get you on the show back then, but it just never lined up, and I never reached out. You know what I mean? We had a lot of stuff going on.
Be like that, absolutely.
Yeah, but you were always at the forefront of my mind, and like, how do I get this dude on here? So let me tell you, visionaries, and that's what we call the people that rock with us, right? Our visionaries.
I dig it.
Today, we're talking about protecting yourself, protecting your future, protecting your assets, protecting your financial capacities, right? And I think that, you are the perfect person because you understand, especially we know that a lot of times people are coming from the real estate world to start their generational wealth, right? And that's fantastic. But, it's one thing to make money and be able to create money, but one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is that you have to learn how to protect your money.
Absolutely.
Right. So we're talking, living wills and trust, and what are some of the things that you offer at your firm?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that excellent introduction. That's extremely kind of you. The way I always like to kind of communicate about myself, my name is Soluto Uba. I'm the founder of the Uba Law Group. We're a law firm that's created to help you protect your business and family legacy. And the way that we do that is through business formation and proper structuring, LLCs, corporations, things of that nature. We also do it through protecting your intellectual property, which is just property that's legitimate but not physical, trademarks, copyrights, things like that. And then additionally, we help people protect their pocketbook with tax strategy, particularly for business owners, entrepreneurs, helping them understand Uncle Sam is going to take the money out your pocket.
He's going to get his.
Even if you have legal ways to keep it there, he's still going to get his. But then lastly, one of the newest areas that we've added to our firm over the past few years is estate planning, which is something that's always been in the works. And you talk about protecting that legacy. What does it look like to kind of build this incredible tower of success? But if you don't have a plan to transition it, you'll quickly turn around and see that that's just a crumbling stack of cards.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we think is really powerful, particularly from my background, and I come from a kind of real estate background combined in the law. There's a smack dab of real estate right in the middle of my story, which really informs a lot of what I do and how I see the world, both from the business world and as an attorney from the legal perspective. But just kind of making sure that people are protected and making sure that this is actually something that's a priority to them is extremely important. And that can be challenging because oftentimes you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. And this is the vibe, the energy that you gave off at the symposium. Yeah. And so what made me so excited to be able to extend that olive branch and get you onto the show. One of the things I want to make sure that we have the opportunity to do before we get to the end, this is something that we normally do. I want you to go ahead and drop your how to get in contact with you, your firm. What are the best ways to do that?
Yeah. So I told you just a little while before we started, I'm used to selling tapes out the trunk. So I've got a system. We've got a format for everything. So my name is, like I said, Soluto Uba, and my law firm is the Uba Law Group. And you can pretty much find us on every social media platform at Uba Law Group, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, UBA, U as an umbrella, B as in Bravo, A as in Alpha, Law Group. And you can find us. And so one of the things that I think is really one of the components of our law firm that I'm most proud of is the fact that I've created a lot of media content. And it was kind of intentional. Let's make videos and different things like that. But really, it's a way to be a resource where at least people can engage and have some sort of benefit at every level. If they can't work directly with our firm, I tell people, if you've got a business-related question, that's something that we do. If you type in that question and you type Uba Law Group, I probably have a video on it. You can find something on YouTube, more long form. You can find something on Instagram, TikTok. There's content on it. So if people are trying to get in contact with us, ubalawgroup.com. We have discovery consultations, paid strategy consultation, all those different types of things. And so just wherever you are, making sure that people take that step in starting, I think, is the biggest part, because oftentimes, and once again, this is what I got from the real estate world, oftentimes the first barrier is analysis paralysis, where people will use, I need to learn more as an excuse to not do.
Yeah.
And so I remember,
look, I'm guilty of that, honestly.
I mean, we're all so even there are aspects of what we want to do internally in the business that's like, I just kind of get to it later. And I remember one of the things that was really profound. One of the pastors said at our church, he was just talking about procrastination. Procrastination is not like a time management thing. It's not a structure thing. Procrastination is an emotional response because you don't think that you are ready to move in a certain area. So you can do whatever you're procrastinating, whatever you're putting off. It just doesn't feel good. So let me just push it off later so I can have that uncomfortableness and delay it. But that uncomfortableness is still coming no matter how far you push it off, so you might as well embrace it. I
want to parry for a quick second here and say, do you think a portion of that is kind of this idea of lack of faith?
Yeah, it's interesting because I do think that there's a lack of faith in a certain regard, but I feel like the way that people develop faith is by doing. Even the scripture says faith without works is dead.
Yes, sir.
And it's like, you want to accomplish all these things, you have all these dreams, and especially, I always hate to be that guy that says in the social media age, but really in this social media age, we get flooded with all these images of people doing all these dope, great things, and they're over here in a jet flying to Dubai, and you haven't made your first sale, so you're just so focused on other people that you can't even kind of take that first step. And it's the most important thing from my perspective about the process of success is failing.
Yes.
And too many times failure, from what I've seen, slows people down. Failure isn't the opposite of success. Failure is a step in success.
Yes.
I've had to fail many times. So number one, I can figure out what not to do and what to do. But number two, I can feel comfortable not getting it right.
Yeah.
Because you ain't gonna get it right.
So man, you're already like hitting on all cylinders right now,
sure.
bro. It's April, May of 2024. And the reason why I wanted to have you on the show in particular is because we talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, we talked to a lot of investors, we talked about mindset repeatedly on this show. And a part of actually taking your step, once you say, you know what, I've been rocking with the Vision Lab for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
These brothers, they have encouraged me and inspired me through their guests to take that step. So they've done what we've asked, what we've talked about on the show.
Yeah.
But how do we do it to make sure that our structure is set up the right way.
Absolutely.
Because you got a lot of commercialization of things, and this isn't throwing in any particular shade or company under the bus, but let's just take LegalZoom as an example. And you and I had a consultation, right? And
sure.
I'm always be 100 with the audience. I've got a couple different LLCs, but I did what most people would do.
Indeed.
Either they're going to go to LegalZoom or they go down to the county clerk's office and just register and file for your LLC.
Yep.
So, right, wrong, or indifferent, what is the best way to properly structure the entities so that we can now move forward and create that generational wealth that a lot of people want to do?
Absolutely. And, and we come across people all the time that went to Secretary of State's office themselves, went to LegalZoom, Rocket Lawyers, Zen Business, InkFile, all these different companies. And I don't begrudge anyone from doing that because oftentimes people don't have the knowledge, people don't have the wherewithal to understand, hey, I should probably go to an expert about this. And in many instances, doing something is better than doing nothing.
Sure.
So we have a whole department at our law firm called the LLC Rehab Department, where we rehab LLCs. We'll take them from other places where they're formed. Not necessarily, the business owner doesn't necessarily feel as confident as they want to about the proper structure of it and the legality of it, and we bring it up to speed as though we had created it from the jump. So that's something that we think is beneficial, but obviously I always encourage people doing something in the first place. But when it comes to kind of structuring your entity, one of the biggest things that I preach about all the time is that anybody can go to Secretary of State's website, one of these websites, and click, in 3 minutes have a piece of paper that says LLC. But I say it all the time in my videos, an LLC is more than just a piece of paper from the state. You don't want a paper LLC, you want a performing LLC. And that's a big distinction that we make. And oftentimes one of the areas where I feel like I'm kind of handcuffed is when I say, oh yeah, you need to work with the lawyer, build up your LLC. Yeah, of course you think that because you want a client, you want people. And so oftentimes, like one of my friends on Facebook, he posted a story, hey, I got sued. And I had this thing that I just set up from the Secretary of State, and I thought it was good, and it wasn't good. And like he went like 5-6 paragraphs deep, explaining the process of the lawsuit, explaining how they pierced the corporate veil, explaining how all these different things that he didn't think was important were actually important. Surprise, surprise. And so it's these instances that I try to kind of highlight, and even I'll do presentations to big groups. I did one last week with a group of realtors, and I got an email at 5:46 in the morning. And I tell people, whenever you get an email at 5:46 in the morning, something has gone wrong. And so this person was trying to close a deal. This is in 2021. And this isn't a client. This is a random person that emailed us. We weren't able to actually help them just because of the circumstances. But this is in 2021 when the real estate market was crazy. People were selling houses 50, 60K above asking. Houses broke down, like didn't have to do nothing. Houses were just flying off the shelf. He's like, hey, we're trying to close. The title company is asking me for my bylaws, my articles and corporations, resolution of the board to actually sell this property, making sure that all the different things are properly in my LLC. I didn't think I needed any of this because I'm the only owner. We're set to close in 6 days. Can you help me? I couldn't help them. They weren't set up the right way. And the time that it would have taken to do that, and then even our workload with previous, they're in a situation where they most likely missed out on that deal during crazy prime season because they weren't prepared. They weren't set up.
So real talk.
Yeah.
Right. Truth time happened to me.
Yeah.
And in our investment group that we're a part of.
Yep.
We were lucky enough that we weren't 6 days away from the closing table, but to make sure that the legalities and everything else is set up and structured the right way is a very, very valid point, right?
Title's they're not gonna budge on their requirements.
And they're not going and you're not gonna close. And I mean, let's just be honest, we would have missed out on a significant you know what I'm saying? Sure. Like a significant deal or whatever. But
I was upset for that person sent me an email. I was like, how are you just figuring this out 6 days before close?
Passive investor, whether it's a flip or what, I can see how it happens. But I want to go back because I gotta rock with the people for a little bit here and help, because you're a lawyer, right?
Indeed.
You know the law through and through. What happens is a lot of times people know that they want to get started, so they do the LegalZoom, go down to the
sure. Better than nothing, absolutely,
for sure. But then they see your content. Well, to your point, right? you're a lawyer, you're just trying to get another client. How do you break down that facade, or that thought process from a prospect?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, man, that's a good question, because one part of what I had to learn from the infancy of our firm, because even my story, I did half of my career. It's even less now. I've been in this for a little bit. I started my career doing the traditional law firm life. I quit in the middle when my son was about to be born. I quit to get into real estate investing full time. I was a full time investor for 3 years, mainly wholesaling, fix and flipping. And then, even though I thought I was done with the law, because honestly, like, I had a good job, had a good situation, but I started thinking, hey, what does the next 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of my life look like? Do I want to be at an office 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 9 to 10, 9 to midnight, working for somebody else? Or especially with a child on the way, do I want to create the type of life that would give me the time freedom and the financial freedom to be there in a way that I want to be for my kids and my family? So great terms, still in contact, texted with some people from the firm a few weeks ago. I'm like, hey, I'm putting my 2 weeks and turning 4 weeks notice, but whatever. And so I was doing the real estate thing full time. But even after I quit the law, when you're the lawyer, even after you quit, people still come to you for the legal stuff. And the only thing I really loved was the business and entrepreneurial minded things. Now, one of the things I had to learn was, hey, people come to business formation from all sorts of perspectives and standpoints. And I had to learn that I can't convince everybody. So there's going to be natural kind of walls and things you have to overcome, and objections internally that I all day have no problem communicating. But some people will not see the value in it. And I gotta love you from afar. That's what the video content is for. That's what the reels are for. That's what the articles on the website and kind of the free content is for. But for the folks who starting to engage with what we're doing, oftentimes I'll just start to pose, hey, do you have something to lose? What happens if your personal assets are at fault and your personal assets are on the line? Like, it's for everybody who's ever gotten sued, and even people who haven't gotten sued and just had the threat of a lawsuit. It's amazing how quickly, all the things that you thought were a hindrance were no longer a hindrance. A quote that always comes in my mind is, crisis creates clarity. Ooh. Like, some stuff, should I really do it? Like, watch it get threatened, and you automatically, I should have done that. I should have taken those precautions, should have taken those necessary steps. All these different things that I thought were important to hold me back really aren't that important. Similarly, when people's businesses get threatened, when people's personal assets start to get threatened, they very quickly, I can afford $2,000 to kind of set up my business properly. And we don't want it to get to that state, because I tell people, legally, pretty much almost anything that happens legally, if you make a mistake, you can fix it. But if you wait too long, the cost to fix it will become prohibitively higher. Sure. So let's get in, even with the LLC rehab, I tell people, let's get this set up, let's get this proper before something really comes and threatens your situation. And it gets to a point where, like, now the cost, a lot of people just cut bait with their business because it's more expensive to have to deal with what they're going through.
Just start a new LLC.
Just go ahead and just start it from scratch. And in many instances, that's an okay thing to do, and that'll actually alleviate some of the issues. But in other instances, businesses that they built in X amount of years, blood, sweat, and tears, built up their business credit, they have resources, they have a standing in XYZ type of industry that they can't replace with a new LLC, and they literally have to start from ground zero. And particularly, I have a love-hate relationship with real estate investors, because they're doing such good business. You're doing flips and you're making money and you're building this wealth. But a lot of folks I would be talking to, particularly early on in the game, did not want to invest in properly protecting themselves. I'm like, you've got 5 properties.
Let me interject, because I want you to be able to draw this line of demarcation when we're talking about protecting yourself.
Absolutely.
Because I don't want people to miss that, because that's a very, very important piece.
Indeed.
It's the ability to separate you and your assets from the business.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that point, because oftentimes people are like, I need an LLC. I want to protect my business. I want to protect my business. The LLC doesn't protect your business. The LLC protects you. And so there's a big concept called personal liability. And the example I like to use is a lemonade stand. So if I'm Soluto, I create Soluto's lemonade stand, and if I don't have a business entity, I'm what you call a sole proprietor. So my business and me are the same thing. I'm selling lemonade, someone buys my lemonade, and they get food poisoning, they go to the hospital, they have $100,000 in medical bills. If they sue Soluto's lemonade stand, they are suing me personally. I am personally responsible because I have personal liability for whatever happened. That's what happens if you don't have a business entity. So if I create Soluto's Lemonade Stand LLC, I create an LLC. The LLC doesn't protect the business because the Soluto's Lemonade LLC sells somebody a cup of lemonade, and I make good lemonade, by the way. Nobody would ever get food poisoning. But if they get food poisoning and they sue the business will be liable for that. The business takes the hit, but my personal assets are protected. You cannot come after me personally if I'm operating through an LLC. So that's oftentimes what people don't understand is that the LLC is to protect you from personal liability. The business takes the hit. And then even next level, if you structure your business properly and strategically, that the amount of hit you have to take from the business end can be greatly minimized to the point where, it's a non-factor. But that your personal liability is what's on the risk, because what's on the line and at risk, because people can come after, not your homestead in the state of Texas. People come after your money, potentially vehicles. People can have like your funds garnished in a sense. There are different ways to do that legally. Like the stuff that you have can be on the line. And that's why I say I have a love-hate relationship with investors, because you'll have investors, great at building properties, but you got 5-6 houses in your personal name, or you've got 10 properties in one LLC, and one thing happens to one property, tenant in house one has an accident in house one, he can sue for all of the houses inside the LLC because that's the entity that owes it. Or if you own all the properties in your personal name, he can come after you and come after all of your personal property.
Yeah.
And so these are the things that people don't see, unfortunately, until it's at their door, until their house is on fire. And then they realize, oh, I probably should have had a sprinkler system. I probably should have had some defenses in place. And so it's so much easier to do these things on the front side instead of worrying about on the back side. And that's just liability protection, not even much less to speak of brand legitimacy.
Well, before we transition into that,
absolutely,
I want to go back earlier, because we were kind of talking about, you legitimizing yourself to prospective clients, and I get the sense that you're young enough but been in the game long enough.
Indeed.
That you leverage social media as a platform, as you should.
Oh yeah.
I'm very curious. How do you talk and deal with our seasoned, mature audience, right?
Absolutely.
And the reason why I'm asking this is because you kind of get into your middle-lessons, if you will. We had an episode with Wes Atwell a couple of weeks ago that we talked about middle-lessons, and that's that idea of like, hey, I really want to start to go after the things that I really want to do, right? So now I'm 45, 55 years old, and I'm now transitioning into real estate investing or whatever, right? So how is your tone, your tenor, your conversation different from that on a social media platform? Absolutely. Whereby, you're giving it to them real, but it's a different, moniker attached to it.
And you throw another monkey wrench on there. You're in the legal profession, which historically has been very buttoned up and straight-laced and it's been a progression. And thankfully, I feel like I found a groove that allows me to operate authentically, but still have wisdom for the scenario that I'm in. And I think wisdom is a huge portion of a lot of it. And it's my favorite quote about it is, there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put a tomato in a fruit salad. And just the difference between the two. So even as I appear now, it took me years to feel comfortable. Oh, I'm doing a speaking engagement. I'm going to talk about the law. Let me at least get a blazer and a button up. Maybe I don't have to tie, but I got to look XYZ type of it. For me to be sitting here in J's and a button, like this is a work in progress.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Just because the legal profession by its nature is so buttoned up and has a way of presenting itself. And there is value to that to an extent. But one of the things that, just kind of rolling with the times, you see that dress up can be a barrier to many people that might have the resources, might have the knowledge, might have the capacity, but don't feel like they can hang in the square or in the circle of all those buttoned up guys. And so there, and you'd be surprised because there's some more seasoned clients and there's a seasoned audience that does feel similarly. And, might be people from more of a blue collar space, or might be people from a space that just, doing work in a career, wise with their money, wants to build something, but they don't necessarily, they feel intimidated to a certain extent by that presentation. And then on the flip side, there are people who are used to that presentation. It's like, hey, okay, young man, you're dressed up differently, but then when you open your mouth, I see the value. I can tell that you've got X, Y, Z. So part of my growth professionally has involved, hey, what does it look like to show up, I don't want to say in your authentic self, but to show up in a real way where people can connect and resonate with who you actually are.
Knowing your audience.
Indeed. And, it's funny because, Will, at our firm, Will Vision Cast every single year, last 2 weeks of December, is really just review and preparation. And we hit the ideal client avatar every single year because it gets sharper and sharper and sharper and sharper. And it's, by the grace of God, the type of clients that I've been praying for, hoping for, wishing for, the type of people that I want to work with have now been drawn and attracted to me by virtue of me being who I am and not necessarily feeling the need to put on a facade or an air of somebody that I'm not, which is very challenging in the legal space.
Well, but you know what that reminds me of? Because you mentioned God and faith a couple of different times, and we talked a little bit, before we hit the record button.
Absolutely.
But it's knowing, I had a conversation with a friend girl of mine about a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago. Mm-hmm. And it's cliche, and you've heard it, Adam's heard it, everybody has heard this before, our visionaries have heard it. What's for you is for you.
Indeed.
You know what I mean?
Indeed.
But it's understanding that those, however many words that is, it's understanding that and being like, yeah, what's for me is for me. Soluto can't have what's designed
Absolutely.
for me. Adam can't have what's designed for Soluto. Cuff can't have what Adam, is supposed to be for Adam. And that it sounds like you've kind of grown or elevated
Absolutely.
into that space. And I don't want to necessarily get off because you're dropping so many gems. Like there's 15 reels already that we could probably do with this. All right, so tell me, like, what are the elements or what I would call like the core tenets that new entrepreneurs or seasoned entrepreneurs should have to make sure all their stuff is legally set up and structured properly?
Excellent. So really you're talking about what we call a performing LLC. And just to kind of take a step back, the two primary, we'll take 2 steps back. Just because I think it's informative. So when people are setting up their businesses, there are probably 4 primary ways that they'll consider. I talked about 2 of them already, a sole proprietorship and an LLC. But the other 2 that we see often, or at least on occasion, are general partnership or a corporation. Now, 2 of them are associated with no liability protection. That's a sole proprietorship and a general partnership. And then the 2 of them are associated with liability protection. That's an LLC and a corporation. Now, I think it's really important that we understand what those are and how those function, because if you're not careful and intentional, you might find yourself in those, and those kind of all have their drawbacks, except mainly the LLC. So really quickly, sole proprietorship, you just decide to start a business. Soluto's Lemonade. I don't have to file anything. I don't have to do anything with the state. I just start doing business. Me and the business are the same thing. It's really easy to start, but if somebody takes legal action against my business, they're coming after me personally. I have personal liability. So not a great idea. The next idea is a general partnership. And when I say that, I mean when 2 individuals are entering into business together, not with the protection of an entity. So if me and Cuff decide to, he's got the best ice, and I've got lemonade, and we want to sell iced lemonade for twice the profit. So we come into business together. Everybody knows that we're working together. Even if we don't have a partnership contract, we can still be considered a general partnership by virtue of our actions. So if people know we're working together and we're have that business arrangement, if I'm going to go collect some more lemonade to sell, and I'm not paying attention, I'm texting and driving and doing something crazy or irresponsible, and I rear end somebody and they have medical,
They can come
medical,
after my
they can come after Cuff, even though he had nothing to do with the situation. So in a general partnership, you have what's called double liability because you're responsible and you're liable for your own actions, but you're also liable for the actions of your business partner.
Wow.
And so, this is just a scenario with two people. You can have 5, 10, X amount of people in a general partnership. It's called joint and several liability. If somebody has legal action, they can come after any partner. They can come after all partners equally. They can come in any type of combination. So I always tell, and so in the real estate world, and here's what's really funny, because in the real estate world, they don't say general partnerships, they say JVs, they say joint ventures. That's a general partnership. And so there's a smart way to do it. You can do a general partner or a joint venture inside of an LLC, but if it's just you as an individual JVing with somebody else as an individual, that's crazy because you have twice the liability in case something happens. Whatever anybody does, you could potentially be responsible for. So that's kind of the second set of business formations that doesn't have liability protection. So we want to avoid those typically, almost in all situations. Now the other side.
Well, let me ask you this, because you said that at the very end. Is there a situation in which a general partnership is okay?
Feasible? Yeah. So typically the general partnership will be okay if you're operating it out of an LLC. So you have two LLCs that are working together in the function of a general partnership, but that's okay because each core component has liability protection.
Okay.
So if Soluto's LLC and Cuff's LLC, I got the lemonade, you got the ice, I accidentally rear end somebody, if they come after my business entity or they come after you, your entity will protect you. You are not personally liable. So the problems of the general partnership are abated by operating it inside of an LLC. Similarly with the real estate deal. Okay. If you do a JV, don't have it be in your personal name. Have your business entity JV with another business entity. So if anything goes sideways, you are not personally on the hook. So that's kind of the big distinction.
Okay.
Because people partner all the time. People going to LLCs are the intention of a partnership, and that's doable. Just don't come into a naked general partnership where it's just you by yourself. That's a terrible idea. And we see it all the time in the real estate world. It happens a whole lot more than it should. So the other entity that gives you protection I want to talk about briefly is a corporation. Now, corporations are one of the oldest business entities. All the big companies, Starbucks, Coca-Cola, Apple, Samsung, they're all corporations. And the benefit is that you actually have liability protection. If I form Soluto's Lemonade Corp., and somebody gets sick off of my lemonade and they sue my corporation, the corporation will protect me. My personal assets aren't at fault. The challenge, though, with the corporation is the vast majority of businesses are either single-member businesses or closely held, husband, wife, family members. Corporations require a certain amount of requirements and formalities that can be excessive, and from my, not excessive, but just more than what the average person will do. From my experience as a business owner, people barely take care of the minimum requirements. You throw the extra stuff that a corporation requires, and they're going to quickly compromise their business integrity and might lose the whole purpose of business protection with a corporation.
Is that from a cost perspective in terms of making sure it's set up right as a corporation?
Yeah.
Or is it the loopholes that the hurdles that you have to overcome to become considered a corporation?
So more so from the maintenance of it. So there's certain corporate formalities that are required with the corporation to actually be running it the right way, which you technically can do, but I struggle getting some of my clients to do what they need to do with the LLC. And so I know with the corporate, like you're setting yourself up for it probably won't end well.
Yeah.
And so the bigger part that we see a lot, though, is with the corporation. Now, this is the money piece. With the corporation, you're subject to what we call double taxation. So that means when you set up a corporation, it's a separate entity and it gets taxed differently. With the LLC, we'll get into it in a second, but with the LLC, it's a pass-through entity. So pretty much you and the LLC, when you have an LLC, your taxes, though, it's just a sole proprietor. So if your LLC makes $100,000, your taxes you personally made as though you personally made $100,000. With the corporation, it's different. A corporation has its own corporate tax rate. So right now, at least through 2026, it's 21%. And that corporation is taxed at the corporate level. And then when you pay yourself and you cut yourself a paycheck, you are taxed at whatever your personal tax level is. So with the corporation, you are taxed twice. So almost all business owners don't need to be set up like that. So there's some instances where a corporation actually is necessary. So maybe you have another career and you're taking a loan out from money from your retirement account to launch another business, in which case that legally requires a corporation. There's some other different avenues, specific niche avenues that will require it. But by and large, people are just trying to get a business entity set up to protect them. So a corporation has additional legal loopholes to jump through to maintain and structure properly. And then there's a double taxation part. So for that reason, it's not a good idea for most instances, to set up a corporation.
So that's a really great explanation of the 4 or 5 foundational pieces that we should have and the way that we should properly set them up. Let's say I'm going to do an industry that neither one of us are in to protect us. But let's say I want to open a travel. I want to be a travel broker.
Yeah.
Okay. Should I open that up as an LLC or as a corporation?
Yeah. Unless there's a specific reason to open up as a corporation, you should be an LLC. I tell my clients, 98% of people, like, you need to qualify to be a corporation. Not like I'm anybody special or anybody has to qualify what they're doing to me, but if we're thinking through it strategically in business-wise, you need a reason to be a corporation, because a corporation has some downsides and some restrictions, both from a legal and a structure and a procedural standpoint, and then also from the tax standpoint. You need to have a real reason to be a corporation, because it's easier to be an LLC. Like, why? Why would you? So I actually have a good client that is a travel agent. She killing it. And so we've set her up as an LLC. And even from the tax standpoint, S corporation, different things that you can do strategically, you get all the same benefit. It's just easier to be that. So there's some niche situations. The client will come up and say, hey, I'm trying to do XYZ specific thing with this kind of a setup that I have. Okay, sure. You understand your specific niche situation. In general, though, most people want to become a corporation because they see that Apple's a corporation or because they saw something on TikTok. And then when you start to kind of ask them and pull back the veil, they really don't understand the difference, or they think they're the same thing.
So let's get into some of the nuances, right? And, well, more specifically, some of the benefits as to why you should be an LLC.
Absolutely.
As to why you should be a corporation. Because a lot of times we hear that what's daunting, right? Like that simply becomes a forward lead of the conversation. But there oftentimes and a lot of times are some benefits.
Indeed. Absolutely. And so specifically with the corporations, one of the biggest reasons why people form a corporations nowadays is if they have some sort of startup company and they're looking for investors. The corporation format is one that investors are very, very familiar and comfortable with. So I'll tell someone, like, you probably could be an LLC structure-wise, but if you're looking for $100,000, $500, $1 million from XYZ invest, yeah, jump through those additional loopholes. Make sure that you've got your stuff on point, I's dotted and T's crossed, because that will facilitate a way for investors to put money into your company.
Good.
Absolutely. If it's just you and you've got your own idea and you're not looking for any outside investment, you're probably best suited with an LLC. And so kind of similarly, from the other standpoint with an LLC, if you're looking to fund it with 401k money, yeah, this ain't gonna work. You need a corporation. Like, you have to legally, you have to be set up in a certain type of way.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, no, oh yeah. It's funny because another part of kind of my learning process is I can set those up. I don't like to do it. They're attorneys that's kind of their jam. And one of the things that, and I think it's kind of an age and a seasoning thing, is I want to do the type of work that I want to do and I like to do and I feel invigorated to do. Type of work I don't want to do it. And I'm just not going to. So I
guess what?
out.
It's your company.
Indeed. and so even from a growth standpoint, I remember years ago, it's funny because we're hearing kind of like the nitty gritty and the practical with the legal, but the mindset portion is so important.
Oh,
like
man.
that abundance mindset versus just being desperate, essentially taking whatever for less than you're worth and just kind of doing something that doesn't financially make sense because you think it's your only opportunity. And really one of the things that I learned from multiple perspectives, which I think will be extremely helpful business-wise, is even when it comes to kind of our rates and how we position ourselves in the market, I had to do what I call defensive pricing. So I would have like lower, cheaper prices, and I'd be losing clients that I thought were a great fit. We had a great consult, great rapport, seemingly. And so thankfully, I had someone who was gracious enough. I followed up with them a few months later. Hey, man, I thought we had a good thing going. It's like, yeah, you know, you knew all your stuff, but if I'm being real with you, just based upon your prices, I just thought that your quality was bad. And so like that set off an alarm in my mind. And it's not like, oh, I'm gonna be super duper crazy prices, but like your presentation in many aspects is communicating something about your value. There's a value proposition if you're having higher end legal service with a lot of specificity that people don't have, and you're charging $500 for it.
To put it simply, or in layman's terms, you don't see Maserati selling their cars for $20,000.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Reason for that. Absolutely.
It's very, very true, because there's a it's sticker shock, but almost in the inverse.
Indeed.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's like, I expect it to be this, and if it's not, okay, well, why is it so cheap?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so interesting with the cognitive and the human mind and how we.
It's a crazy thing, man.
And all you're trying to do is just get some people, get some clients going.
And so I had to, and you know, and there's so many dimensions to that though, because as a business attorney, I feel like I'm low-key a therapist sometimes to some of my clients.
Well, you are.
Because what you'll see is people are like, yeah, you know, this is good stuff and it's great, and you have highly skilled people, but it's the human component. If it costs you nothing, it costs you nothing. Or if people don't have to be invested, they're not going to value it. Like we built out during COVID, we built out the business launch blueprint. It was a 4-week course, nearly 10 hours of content, pretty much just what I do on a regular basis, pouring it into people. I had clients that came out and they invested. I had a stay-at-home mom. She, you know, her and her husband, they were really trying to launch, and she put it on a credit card, and it was a 4-week course. By week 6, she had her own photography business set up. They're taking on clients. They were killing it. I had family members. I gave them the course for free. They showed up for the first week, didn't show up for anything else because the investment wasn't there. So now oftentimes I don't see the cost as prohibitive. Obviously, there's some people that can operate and work with you at different stages in their growth personally, and I don't begrudge anybody for that, of course, which is why I'm really big in the digital content and the video content, because there's a lot of what people are connecting with me personally with. I've put it out in different formats, not to the same extent, but you can start somewhere. But for the people who are looking to connect with me, like there's a price associated with it from multiple standpoints though. Because one of the things that I start to feel in myself earlier on was I was starting to resent some of my clients because I'm giving them the standard of work, but my compensation is such that I can't feed my family on this. I can't take care. So in order for it to make sense for everyone, it's like, hey, let's have the rates at a place that's competitive and makes sense and creates value and really necessarily makes you be bought in, because there's a level of bought-in-edness.
I like that.
Within a dictionary that you can't without investing. And so coming back to the piece about the LLC and the structuring of that, one of the things we talk about is the paper LLC versus the performing LLC. And that performing LLC is what you're looking for, because that's what's going to really give you the whole primary function of a business entity: confidence and peace of mind. Confidence that I'm set up right, peace of mind that, hey, if stuff hits the fan, my personal assets are protected. So we tell people there are 2 core pillars to having a performing LLC. You have your internal legal documents and you have your corporate formalities. Internal legal documents, corporate formalities. And so, not gonna put anybody to sleep with legalese, I'm just breaking down really quickly. Internal legal documents are things like your operating agreements, your consents, your resolutions. These are things that form the powers and the protections in your business. And so we're in Texas. I'm specifically barred in Texas. I form businesses nationwide, but I can do more in Texas. And so when I have my clients, I just had 6 consultations today, and 66% of them were for LLCs. And so when I'm breaking down to them, when we form an LLC in Texas, there are laws in Texas that are very, very favorable for business owners. So there are specific protections that we can put in for our Texas LLCs that most other states can't get because those states don't have the laws on the books. So there are ways we can protect the client where if something goes wrong with their business, they can personally be protected. But also the flip side, if something happens with them personally, their business can be protected. Because a lot of times what people don't understand is that your business is personal property. Your LLC specifically is personal property. Corporations operate a little bit differently, but your LLC specifically is personal property. So if you do something like, for instance, if you get into a fender bender, or if you get into a car accident or wreck and you're responsible, somebody can come after you for your personal assets to recoup and to make themselves whole. Your LLC is one of those personal assets, and there are ways that people can get into your business and the equity, the
and people think that it's an LLC. They think that they can't touch it.
They think it's a lockdown, but people don't understand. And we won't get too far into these, but charging orders are real things. There are ways that a court can say, hey, you have a business, you owe this person money because you're legally at fault, and they have a judgment against you. They can take the proceeds, the distributions from your company until you paid them off. So you owe this person in court $100,000. You got a business, you're making good money, and you didn't have any type of structure. And you pay yourself. You found something on LegalZoom, you found something online, and just their generic documents say that you pay yourself every month. With this judgment, a court can order, hey, as soon as you take out any money in your business, you got to pay the person off. So you can't take any person.
It's funny
personally.
that you say that because that was actually going to be my next question. Right, your OA, your legalese, and all this stuff. Right, I could do all that myself, Soluto. Why do I need to hire a lawyer?
Do it. And it sounds, and I try. It's very difficult to toe that line because every time it happens, like I get where you're coming from, but there's part of me that's like, man, like you haven't seen what happens. And there's some people that are sophisticated enough to do it, been in the game X amount of time, and this is your 9th LLC. You form that on, go and succeed. Like, you'll be all right. But there's certain people where it's like you're counting pennies in the wrong area. And one of the things,
counting pennies and jumping over dollars.
And one of the things that I think people are so kind of fixated and fascinated with, particularly in the social media world, it has to look pretty. You got to have the cleanest Instagram, TikTok profile. You got to have the slickest this, that, or the third. But then the inside of the house is shabby. You don't have a proper setup. You don't have legitimate contracts that can stand the test of court. You don't have different foundational components that actually lead to success. But you paid, XYZ consultant XYZ thousands of dollars so you can have a banging looking outside presentation. And I don't begrudge it because both are necessary in different aspects, but it's easier to scale a properly set up business than it is to make a business that's just aesthetically pretty, profitable, and properly set up. And when you try to do it in the opposite way, you end up harming yourself most of the time. And so that it's challenging because I sell what I call a defensive product. Like my LLC, my business structure is not going to make you money. It's not going to bring you X amount of, in some instances it can. You have an LLC set up as an S corporation, you can save X amount on taxes, and that can be a benefit. But generally, it's not going to protect you. It's not going to make you money. It's going to protect you in the event that something happens. And many times we're just not wired to think that way. I am, because this is my industry and this is what I see all the time. And when we're talking about protecting the actual business, and then even when we talk about protecting legacy, what does it look like to actually have something that's set up and worthwhile to pass on to other people? I have a client who's killing it. They're in the fashion world. They have a business. One of the things that we talk about is, hey, if you pass away, God forbid, if you do pass away,
it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen. We want to sell your business because you have family, you have children, you have people who are counting on you. What people don't understand, and this is kind of transitioning some of the estate planning, the business succession portion of it. What people don't understand is that your business is personal property. So if you pass away and you don't have a trust set up, your assets are frozen. You have to go through probate court to get them released. And the probate court process is probably going to take about 1.5 years for all the stuff to be resolved.
Current date.
Currently. So if you sold your business, if you had to sell your business today, you could probably get a nice little penny for it. If your business is frozen and doesn't do anything for a year and a half, what you think your business is worth then?
Wow.
And so these are the things that people aren't necessarily thinking through, and especially now with the estate planning portion, this is something we've been wanting to do for a long time. But I'm a big believer in don't have shiny object syndrome. Don't jump from one thing to one thing to one thing. Master one thing, systematize it, do it to the point where it can operate without you, then transition and shift over to another complementary asset and complementary component. And so this has been the service that we've been wanting to do. And even we have a campaign for 2025, kind of 2024 as well, called 100 Black Families. Because particularly in the Black community, estate planning, generational planning is something that's sorely lacking. And so we have clients, from every background. We don't discriminate at all, but particularly just being in the Black community, it's something that's really important to me. Even we used to have a brand of T-shirts in a campaign that said ownership is the new Black, focusing on business ownership, real estate, intellectual property, and actual companies. And so one of the things that I think was a natural transition is, what does it look like to structure these things so that they can be passed on? And so now,
because that's let's see here, probably 2012, 2014, generational wealth just started to
sexy term.
It's a sexy term, and that's cool. But what you're talking about is the actual part, because people don't realize that when you're talking generational wealth, that means you have to have died in order to have passed that legacy down.
Indeed.
But now, if you don't have your business set up and structured properly, it can end up in probate court. God forbid somebody else comes in, swoops in, and buys it before your family has an opportunity or what have you.
Yeah.
So this is the actual generational wealth.
This is the non-sexy part.
Yeah, but it's the actual thing itself.
Yep. And one of the things that so we're even fortunate, even from just kind of a personal standpoint, we had somebody that put us in contact with like a financial advisor and just at a base had us get life insurance. And so if forget the legal stuff, if you learn nothing else, just get life insurance. Get as big of a policy as you can get as young as you are, because it will only benefit you. And so just when you talk about generational wealth, that component by itself can be one of the biggest factors of, if you pass away, what would it look like for your kids to get $1 million? Let nothing else happen. What could they do? Now, obviously, you want to put pieces and components in place because it's very easy for people to blow $1 million. But
did that last weekend.
Problems have come. So, but just kind of having that structure in place, having these different aspects and components, even specifically with the business, what does it look like for you to have specific push-pull buyout provisions and a buy-sell insurance? So in the event that you have a business partner, and this is another aspect that people don't think about. If you have a business partner and one person passes away, you signed up to be in business with that person. If they pass away, their spouse, their children could inherit the business. You didn't sign up to be in business with those other people. What does it look like to have a policy that will buy out the other person's portion of the business so you can continue to operate things the way that you want, or could just buy out the business entirely? And so these are aspects that, number one, need to come from the kind of the insurance sector, but also need to be baked into the actual documents in your company. Because even specifically, like, a business's personal property, it can get tied up in probate court, unless you have a revocable living trust and different elements like that. But another way kind of around that is to have an LLC, a business entity with specific provisions that allow you to transfer that ownership piece, because a business is personal property, allow you to transfer ownership without having to mess with probate court. So these are all different considerations that really people don't think through. And I don't necessarily begrudge people, because you have to get to necessarily a certain space in your life. You have to be exposed to certain things before they become relevant.
At 28 years old, you're not thinking about your business partner passing away, and now you've got to, like,
you're not thinking about that. You're trying to build something.
You're not thinking about that. So that's, and hell, leaving at 45, like, you're not thinking about that, right?
It's crazy, because life is life. Nobody knows the hour when someone will pass. So especially since becoming a father and having children, like, I have what I call healthy paranoia. Like even I'll just be out and about at the park, at the store, whatever. My mind is like, what's the worst thing that could happen right now? How would I respond? Which I think is fairly regular amongst dads, parents, just different things like that. Similarly, kind of for your business, what does it look like to be structured? For your family, what does it look like to be structured? Like one of my greatest fears is, hey, what if I'm not here? How is my family going to be protected? Obviously, you have family members, people that will love all my children, take care of my wife, and different things like that. But there's certain aspects that
different type of protection.
Indeed. So just getting to the point where these kind of questions are relevant, even though it's not like I'm not worried about dying on a regular basis. But what does it look like to have a plan? One of my favorite scriptures says, "A godly man leaves an inheritance to his children's children."
Yes, sir.
So I have a son, and his kids need to be set up because of what I'm doing now. So what does it look like to create those components? And so even specifically, when we do, we'll do webinars, we'll do seminars, we'll do presentations about estate planning. One of the biggest things that I'm trying to push people is to get a trust. And the bigger impediments is like that stereotype, trust fund baby. That's, for rich people. And it's like, no, that's really the hardest thing to break.
That should be the thing.
Like, I love teaching, I love educating, I love talking about this stuff. And so we'll do presentations and just kind of talk and just educate so people know about it. And over the years, I learned it's not the head knowledge that stops people. It's just kind of, especially when anything dealing with death, people are, I don't want to think about it, I don't want to talk about it.
Are you saying it's the EQ?
It might be, And so, but it's funny because that has really kind of influenced how I present the information. And it's funny because I've always been very hesitant. I don't ever want to feel like, oh, he was pushing me to do X, Y, Z, because that's not really the purpose. But one of the things that I'll typically do on consults is I'll take a moment and hey, I'll charge the client to, hey, really consider this. Like, if you can't work with me, if something's prohibitive, maybe we don't have the rapport, you want to work with somebody else, that's totally fine. That's excellent. But these things are extremely important, and there's no benefit to you delaying. There's actually a lot of harm to the people that you care about the most. Because, when we talk about estate planning, it's really, to an extent, it is for you. There are lots of benefits that you can have for it, but it's really about your loved ones. It's really about the ones that you leave behind. And, the funny thing, even there is, we'll talk about estate planning, and I've got a trick question I ask people. I ask them, hey, do you have an estate plan? Majority of people will say no. I'm like, that's a trick question. Because even if you haven't created something, the state of Texas, your state has an estate plan for you. And you probably don't like it. So when we talk about estate planning, when we talk about creating a trust, creating a will, what we're really saying is how do you opt out of the default plan that the state has for you? Because everything from what's going to happen to your money, who's going to take care of your kids if you have minor children, all of these different aspects, there is a default plan that the state has. And the state might take your assets or put your children with someone that you don't want them with. So your responsibility to the people who you have leadership over requires that you put a plan in place. And so oftentimes people really aren't thinking about those aspects. And then even what does it look like, especially from our successful clients, you've built this thing up and you're 40, you're 45, you're 50, you got a $2 million business that's been blowing up, and it's only going to go even higher. If you pass this inheritance on to your children, life happens. There are lots of different things that can happen to somebody. There's divorce, there's lawsuits, there's bankruptcy. There are ways to structure the inheritance that they receive that will prevent it from being touched by that. But you have to be thinking about these things, have to be having these conversations to figure that out. And so just that educational component is so crucial. So just that you can be in the ball game and you can understand that, hey, these are the factors that are at play. This is the way that I can respond. How am I going to address this to the best of my ability?
We've covered a lot, right? But
yeah,
we've not covered enough, right? But we're at the point of the show where we're going to land the plane, as my co-host likes to say. Again, shout out to Mosif. But prior to doing that, I want to ask you one question, and then we're going to get ready to land the plane. We talked a little bit offline and joked about it. There's a reverent, fervent passion that you have for this.
Yeah.
Why? Because there's so many disciplines in law. Why this?
Absolutely. That's I like being interviewed. I like doing this type of things because I can typically think off the top of my head. But that's a question I don't think I've really been asked.
And that's what
Yeah.
I do. That's what we do here in the Vision Lab. We want to hit you to make you think. We hear that a lot. But no, seriously though, why is this so important to you?
Yeah, as I think about it, the funny thing is I can talk about this stuff all day. You know, I enjoy it, but I tell people, you drop $50 million on me, law firm is done. Like I sell to somebody else can do all this stuff for you. What I'm gonna do, me and my wife are gonna work with couples at our church. I'm gonna travel. You know, we're gonna invest. We're gonna do the things we feel God has called us to do, and just try to live the best life to the best of our ability and be good stewards of what we have. But what I say that to really kind of unveil, for most people, their occupation is a means to an end. And that end is typically connected to their family, connected to what their purpose is, connected to all those things. So when I'm serving people, we're working with clients, I want to help people get set up so that they can best facilitate their why. And if their why is to do the business, then great. But if their why is to really kind of take care of their family and help others, how do we help you get that set up in the most effective way possible?
I get it.
Absolutely.
But why is that important to you?
That's interesting.
I mean, we talked a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if we did this on the show, but I know we certainly did it before the show.
Yeah.
Your dad coming over, right?
Yeah.
Went to New York and was like, no, this ain't it. You want to Houston, right?
Sure.
But did you grow up impoverished?
It's funny that I gave an answer and then you probed the question again, which is dope.
Come on, man. I should have been a lawyer too, bro.
For sure. And so actually a little bit about my background. My dad passed away when I was 8.
Okay.
So my mom remarried later, but like we did, I grew up in Houston. We weren't like hood, but we were hood. And by the grace of God, like I didn't have too many of the deleterious effects that come from that.
Ooh, that's a good word.
But there is there's a sense in which every situation that you've been in is specifically for a purpose. So a lot of times suffering that we go through is not specifically supposed to terminate on us, but it's supposed to be used to help somebody else. And so what does it look like to put yourself in position to do that? And so, I know how to base and abound. Like I don't need a lot. I have 3 other siblings. We used to always tell people, you could put me and my brothers and sisters in a room with a cardboard box, and we entertain ourselves forever. Like we don't need a lot. But what does it look like to tap into that unique thing that is for you? You mentioned it before. Like what's for you is for you. And really when you just really start to meditate and really kind of take that in, your fear or kind of your jealousy, or you need to kind of keep up with the Joneses or to be like anybody else, or just kind of even a lot of those concerns of looking a certain way alleviate themselves. Like personally, I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but one of the things that I think is a strength of mine is I have convictions about what's really important and what's worth going after, whether it be people, whether it be relationships, whether it be just goals. I can pursue that because I know at the core who God made me to be and what's important in life. And so what we found is when it comes to kind of business and law, like these are avatars that represent core values and beliefs that people have and priorities. So what does it look like to help you facilitate that in the best way possible so you can really tap into whatever that thing is for you? And so that's been instrumental. That's changed my entire life. Like I tell people all the time, like son was born and I would walk into my law firm office for about a month, and the thought going through my head every day is, if I don't get out now, I'm going to be trapped. I'm going to be trapped. Trapped in a good way. Have to provide for family. I got to be at this.
But it's not what you were called to do.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah,
but it's
sure.
different. Like I was in the 3rd grade going to a local library, printing out 70 pictures of Dragon Ball Z characters and selling it at school for 75 cents.
Come on.
Like this entrepreneurial grind, like it's been inside of me. And there's a specific aspect that gives people the freedom to do things that you can't necessarily do with a 9-to-5. And I don't ever begrudge. I'm not that, you got to be an entrepreneur. I'm not that person at all. Because there's so much value to people that have non-entrepreneurial endeavors, and there's such a benefit that they create in society, indeed. but there are people who are called to have a little bit of wiggle room and freedom with their time to do things that are more time restrictive. And so if this is you, if that's your calling, what does it look like to do that to the best of your ability and to have that peace of mind and that confidence to get at least some of those barriers out the way? Because business ownership has enough challenges of its own, but let's not have the legal piece be a part of it. What does it look like for you to not spend your time? And this is why I just told several people today, your business is hard enough. You don't need to waste hours trying to be a lawyer poorly.
Wow.
Like people, I don't do my taxes. I have a great expert that I use for that. I don't try to spend hours trying to figure out this other thing that I will do poorly. Let me focus on my strengths and let me focus and use the highest and best use of my time.
Do what you do.
Indeed. And have a power. The language that we use is we call it a power team. You need a power team around you. You need an accountant. You need a bookkeeper. You need an attorney. You need a financial advisor. You probably need a life coach. You need all these other people around you to tell you what you don't know, you don't know. And the stuff that isn't your skill, isn't your strength, as soon as possible, let's outsource it. Now, of course, there's a point everybody has to get out the mud. I was the marketing department. I was the sales department. I was the lawyer. I was the janitor in my office. I held a lot of hats for a period of time. And, that's natural. But as soon as you can, you need to start to fire yourself out of position so you can excel and accelerate at what you're supposed to do. Often that acceleration part is really key because you can't be the CEO when you have to spend 80% of your day being the secretary, answering emails, taking phone calls. And you have to do that for a portion of time. But what does it look like? And we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but low key, that's why I'm so passionate about tax strategy, because that allows you to free up money that's already in your business and put it to use so you can probably use it to get some technology and facilitate a lot of these things that are time consuming but necessary tasks. So what does it look like to do what you're supposed to do and to work on your business because you have the freedom to do that because you're not always working in your business? So that's kind of my long-winded answer to kind of respond to at a core root of your identity. Your work is a part of it, but your work is not the root of it. Your work is typically connected to an end priority or an end result that you're trying to achieve. So how can we help you achieve that? And in many instances, how can we help you discover what that really is? Because oftentimes people think that they're supposed to do X, but X is just a way to help them get to doing Y, which is what their real calling and purpose is. Yeah. So as soon as we can kind of clear out the room, and sometimes it takes a lot of time to figure that out. So let's do that in as a quick and efficient way as possible to help you really tap into whatever that true purpose or calling is.
Love it. Love it. So real quickly, one more time,
yes, sir.
As we get ready to land the plane, how can our visionaries get a hold of you through any of your social media
Absolutely.
platforms or your website, et cetera?
Yeah. So once again, my name is Soluto Uba. I'm the founder of the Uba Law Group. We're a law firm that's here to help you protect your business and family legacy. And we do that through business formation protection, LLCs, corporations. We also do some nonprofit work. We also do that through trademarks, intellectual property. We do that through estate planning, helping people create wills, trust, especially. We want 100 Black families with the trust. We serve all communities with trust and assets. And then we also do that just through speaking and opportunities like this, which I'm very, very humbled and grateful for. So if you're looking to connect with our law firm, that's Uba Law Group. U is an umbrella, B is in Bravo, A is an Alpha, Law Group. Pretty much on any social media platform, you Google Uba Law Group, you'll find us. ubalawgroup.com is our website where you can set up free consultations where we can learn more about your business and create a game plan to help you accomplish your goals. But really, that's what we would love to do. By the grace of God, I'm able to connect with people across the country and serve clients in a lot of different aspects and capacities and really just kind of share a life wisdom to get them out of their own way. Because typically people either have the capacity to do what they're trying to do and they're scared, which is very understandable. I always tell people a way to overcome fear is to do, because you'll do it and you'll fail.
That's facts.
But even after you fail, I'm not afraid of it.
And guess what? You're still here.
Indeed. I can hop on a call. I can cold call 100 people a day. I can get told no 100 times. It doesn't bother me because I did it for a year and a half. But a lot of that trepidation, some people, how
first
you get
time,
over it?
The first time, second time, third time maybe. After that, breeze.
Yeah. And so just helping people push past that. And of course, and I'll do some legal stuff on the side. No, but just that's how we serve people. At the
Can
end
you
of
help
the
me
day,
pay these traffic tickets?
nah.
Just get them dismissed.
Man, listen, the times I used to get the Facebook DMs about that, but I've segmented myself in the market. Now people understand what my value proposition is. But yeah, feel free to reach out and connect with us, whichever way is most convenient for you.
Amen and amen. All right, so in case you didn't know, we do have a magical time machine here in the Vision Lab podcast.
Interesting.
Okay. What advice would Soluto be giving himself from 5 years ago? So you today, looking back at yourself from 5 years ago, what advice would you be giving yourself?
Get that Bitcoin.
No. Really? What is it, 70 right now?
Man, listen.
It was damn near 100.
Man, listen. Shoot. But yeah, it's funny because that's always like the classic response. Oh, if you can go back, buy Apple stock, But the reality of the situation is 5 years ago.
So it's 2019.
2019. It's funny because I think a lot of the key core lessons that I was learning came from my time in real estate. So I would probably tell myself, hey, invest in yourself. And I say this as, not just kind of like the cliche way. One of the biggest cheat codes that I've had is invest in myself, not because, I get XYZ amount of strategy from the money, but I've paid in probably the past 5 years, I've maybe dropped 50,000 plus on training and other aspects. So as a practical function, when I set my rates to a certain level, it doesn't bother me because I know that I've invested in myself and I've paid the cost to be the boss.
This is my value,
so to speak. I mean, this is what you're getting. So if I could go back to myself 5 years ago, I would say, hey, increase your rates. Stop working on crazy pay that's going to have to 100x your output in order to maintain and just kind of don't be afraid to be a market leader, a space leader. One of the things that even distinguished myself amongst other attorneys is we call it a tax strategy VIP day. It's a tax strategy consultation. And my number one clients have actually been other lawyers about how to use certain tax strategies to put money back into your pocket on a regular basis. This is for all business owners. But one of the things that, and I knew the stuff, but I'm like, this isn't a thing that people do. Can I create this? And then I just did it, and I told people about it, and they bought it, and it helped them. And it took me, I probably had like six months to a year just having the argument within my own head. I can't, this isn't like a thing. I'm not an accountant. I can't. Is this the law? Yeah, well, yeah. Is it true? Yeah. Can you use these strategies? Yeah. Maybe I can do this. Yeah. And I did it, and nobody knows that it's not a thing unless you tell them. And that's another crazy thing. Like oftentimes we have doubts in our own mind. Mm-hmm. Oh, what if they don't like my presentation? They've never seen this type of presentation before. They don't even have the bandwidth to question it on the level that you are. You're just giving them the service. Do you know how to do it?
It's like that saying that, like, if you're an actor or you're in a play and you mess up, no one knows that you messed up because they don't know the script. Yeah. Right?
Absolutely.
So okay. So let's the first one was a little bit of a softball question, right? Let's fast forward the clock 5 years from now. Okay, you're 5 years older. What advice is that version of Soluto? What advice is he giving you today? He's getting a chance to reach back and talk to you today.
Probably just to work on my discipline.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's interesting. I had one of my favorite classes in law school. I was very naturally adept at it. And, I was cool with the professor. And I got my grade literally the day before graduation. Ugh. And I thought I aced the class. I got a B. Oh my God. I was all over the place. And so I emailed the professor. He's like, yeah, you're really good at this. It caused you to be lazy. You didn't try as hard as you could have.
Wow.
And so stuck with me. And I think kind of the trap is in a lot of the areas where a lot of us are just naturally proficient. I can wake up and do it in my sleep. That causes us to rest on our laurels and not fully maximize what we could do just because it comes so natural to us.
Thank you, Jesus.
And so one of the areas that I constantly remind myself, hey, I need to be I need to be more disciplined because hard work will overcome talent.
When talent doesn't work
Talent
hard.
doesn't work hard.
Bro, that is literally, I was just waiting for a gap to say something. That's all I was thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm going to double down even more. Over the last 2, maybe 3 days,
Yeah.
that's been ringing in my head.
Yeah.
Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Absolutely. It's
That's why I said thank you, Jesus.
Oh yeah. It's funny because kind of the picture that comes to my mind is, I'm sure it's happened on different players, but there's this one Monday Night Football game where Deshaun Jackson caught a pass from, it might have been McNabb, clear break to the end zone, and he's just showboating, and he throws the football back before he crosses the end zone. That's a touchback.
Yeah.
And just, you all the time in the world, but doing the fundamentals, the basic stuff, because you thought you had this in the bag, and you lose out.
Before the payday.
Before the payday.
Or pay dirt.
Indeed. And that's personally everything from exercise to diet. And like all these things kind of really seem to work synchronously. And because when I find, hey, when my exercise is on point, that diet is working, it's easier to do what I need to do in my business properly. Like all of these things flow together. And so what does it look like to kind of create a habit, a pattern, a rhythm of discipline? And one of the things that I discovered in myself is now I need to be more mentally attuned. That one of the things that will break my discipline is if I get sick. Like, I'll have a cough or a cold. That'll throw me off from working out. That'll kind of throw me off from eating right. That'll throw me off from a whole bunch of different places. And so what does it look like to now be mentally aware enough? And in kind of like another analogy that I see in my mind, I remember Larry Fitzgerald was talking about before he entered the draft in 2003, when the football is in the air, he says like the world just slows down. And he's doing all of these top-notch, elite talent athlete, physical moves. He's running at crazy speed with positioning, blocking the defender, but he just thinks through what are the physical, small, little nuances that I need to catch this ball in the best position. But because he's mastered that craft so much, the world is slowed down. So what does it look like to push my discipline to the point where I can just kind of fine-tune and tweak those little nuances and have that just be the difference between X level of success versus kind of falling back, resting on your laurels, and kind of getting back into that same hamster wheel. So yeah, discipline would probably be it.
All right. I love that. And I appreciate the Larry Fitzgerald comments.
Yeah.
Because when you're in your pocket, everything slows down.
Indeed.
I was a receiver in college.
Okay.
Caught thousands upon thousands of footballs off the jug machine, quarterbacks, little, pitch and catch or whatever. And when we used to do this thing where we would start the jug machine off maybe at 15 yards. And, the football has a white stripe at the top, on the front and the back, right? So as that ball is perfectly spiraled, you really only focused on that and then the point. You got to be really good at just what we call catching the fat, watching the point.
Yeah.
Catch the fat, watch the point. But we're in college. We want to see how gangster we can be. So we take it from 15 yards to 10 to 5 to 2 to see if you can catch it literally off the jug machine, right? But you're so in tuned with the skill itself. So when you were talking about Larry Fitzgerald, because I graduated with Larry.
Dope.
Watching that ball at its highest heights and having everything, the crowd, everything slow down to where it's just the simplicity of watching the white, catching the fat, watching and seeing the point.
Yeah.
That's what life should be about when you're in your pocket.
Indeed.
Man, I want to say this before. I've got one more question for you. But you have an open invitation. I think the conversation was amazing.
Absolutely.
I would love to have you back on because I feel like, number one, we just, scratched the surface.
Part 1 to 10,
we scratched the surface, and I think there's more that you really want to share. And I certainly want to invite you back onto the show, so you do have an absolute, for sure. So as we land the plane, 2 questions that I have for you. Okay. What if you were a book? What would be the title of your book?
Somehow I managed. No, that's an office joke.
Come on.
Shoot.
I know Andy. Or was that Michael?
Was that Michael? I think that was
That was
Michael. Yeah,
Michael?
somehow I managed. Yeah, it was Michael.
Hey, you know they may have a reboot coming out.
Man, they can't do the office.
No, you can't do the
2024.
original. I'm a huge geek.
I don't even want to hear that. Like, have like a little special. What our special? Bring back the original cast and crew. You can't
give me a miniseries.
Yeah,
Give me 2 seasons
and
and we're done.
just call it a wrap. But what would the title to my book be? Man. Keep going.
Okay.
I think a lot of my life has been marked by perseverance, and like if you keep going, like no, it's funny because like I'll be talking to family and like, oh, XYZ thing is happening. I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Keep going.
Are you gonna die if you face XYZ circumstance? Like, no, so it's just gonna be really uncomfortable. Oh well, keep going. Like, and it's funny because comfort is the enemy of progress. Mm-hmm. I've learned, like, it's funny because even like from a physical standpoint, when you're lifting, you're working out, you'll throw 2 plates on the bench and, oh, it was really hard. It's really hard. It's okay. Oh, this is easy. And then some people, oh, these 2 plates, this is really impressive. And now like you are starting to, like, you're not regressing, but just by virtue of you not increasing your weight, like you're regressing. So now you got to constantly shift. We gotta lift heavier, and you're always going from kind of one season of discomfort to another season of discomfort, because really that represents growth. Yeah. So just kind of keep on going, persevere.
Love that. This has been an absolute pleasure. Last question of the show. You have 5 guests at a round table. Okay,
Sheesh.
It's you and 5 other people. Who's at your round table?
Man, listen.
And they can be dead or alive.
Yeah. That's a wrong question to ask me. Shoot.
First person, go.
Jesus.
Can't have Jesus.
Can always have Jesus.
He's in your heart.
Indeed. Let's see. So it's this rapper. His name is Shyland. He's probably one of the dopest lyricists, and even from a just precision standpoint. So I would have him there. I think Dave Chappelle would be a really, really dope, just general life perspective and insight type person to have. It's interesting.
Now, by the way, is Shaolin from Wu-Tang?
No.
Okay.
He's another rapper. He's from Philly.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I might listen to Wu-Tang on the way home.
Let's see. Man, that 5 people spot is tough.
Shaolin, Dave Chappelle.
Let's see. Who's a thinker that I like to interact with? We said dead or alive now. Shoot. I think Frederick Douglass would be
a good one.
Crazy great person to have a conversation.
Frederick Douglass, Shaolin, and Dave Chappelle.
Let's see. Man. So I'm a big fan of thinkers and debaters and just kind of like that intellectual jousting. Just kind of, even we talked about like things slowing down and being in the thick of it. I think it's really dope to just kind of see people who excel at that. So there's this apologist philosopher dude. His name is Cliff Connectley. He's alive, and so I'd have him.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, just sharp dude. It's fun. I'll watch his videos and like you watch enough, like you can. Oh,
is he like a Simon Sinek?
In a different way.
Okay.
But like he'll be debating, but he was like, "Oh, you lost 10 minutes ago and you don't even know it." Like your foot is in the trap, like you're done. And then like when he just drops it on him, it's dope to see. Let's see though. Shoot. Man, it's funny though you mentioned Simon Sinek because his start with why, that was a game. So I included it in one of my courses. People don't buy what you sell, they buy who you are.
100%.
Anyway. That'd be a whole nother rabbit trail. Man, last person. Who was a good book that I read? Shoot. Yeah, it's funny because we talk about discipline. Who wrote Compound Effect?
Darren Hardy.
Darren Hardy. Man, it's funny because I'll tell people.
1 degree.
It's wild. Like,
what is it, Cleveland or Ohio to New York or something? Yeah.
Yeah. I got to do X, Y, Z to overcome. I was like, no, really. You just one little thing and then just continue. Keep going.
So you want to see Darren Hardy?
Man.
Or meet Darren Hardy?
It's probably a whack list, but this is the type of thing that I'm bad at doing on the spot.
And this
like,
is the
I'll be in the car driving home. I should have.
You gonna text me later? And be like, hey, I should have
edit this. I'll send in. I will do ADR. I'll send in the video. Send in the audio. We just make my mouth look like it's saying something.
He's gonna have Channing Tatum on there.
Oh, yo, hold up, Hakeem Olajuwon. Hakeem was always a hero growing up. It's funny you brought up. You said Tatum, which made me think of the other Tatum. The Dream would be wild to me.
Well, that makes sense.
I'm from Houston,
and you're Nigerian.
And like it's funny because one of my friends in high school, he showed a picture that he was with. Oh my gosh, man, I came up. I don't know what we learned that week because it was just talking about that. So that'd be a dope just person to me.
Love
Yeah,
it.
man.
The Dream.
Yeah, I was in Houston.
The original, The Dream.
The original. It's funny. I remember my dad. He took us to the conference when the Rockets won in '95. We went to the conference to the
Finals?
to the parade. No, he took us to the parade, and that was a dope memory. Just come through on the fire truck and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that'll be the list for now. Next time we do it, we'll run it back. I'll be prepared. I'll have a legitimate list, a rehearsed.
You think you'll be prepared?
Nuanced list.
You think you'll be prepared?
You throw something else at it.
Never know.
Yeah,
well, hey, Soluto.
Absolutely.
Man. Hey,
Yes,
listen,
sir.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely.
I knew it was going to be fire from last year when we saw you at the symposium.
This is right.
Folks, remember, each one of our guests are dropping nuggets of wisdom here on the Trail of Life. Ultimately, it's up to you to pick them up. I'm Cuff, missing one half of the Vision Lab podcast with Mosif, but he'll be back in a couple of weeks. Big shout out to our guest, Soluto. Make sure you guys reach out to this brother, man. This dude is doing amazing things. Until next time, my friends, blessings.